Hi! I'm Laura, and I want to welcome you to Adventures in Creating, the place where I take you on an adventure to create something hopefully awesome. Today we are making fabulous pirate hats. Arrgh! Why are we doing this? Halloween is coming up pretty quick, and you might still be thinking, what am I going to be for Halloween? What are my children going to be for Halloween? What is my roommate going to be for Halloween? Look no further than your local thrift store and, of course, this video. We're going to make these hats. These are very simple. They did not start out as pirate hats. I went to, like I said, my local thrift store, picked up a few straw hats, and modified them to fit my needs. On top of that, I picked up the rest of this getup too there, which, hey, why not go all out if you're doing the costumes? This is a great project. It's very inexpensive and very easy and fun to do. This is something, even if you feel like you can't craft it all, you can totally do this. So, without further ado, join me as we go on our adventure to create pirate hats. Get ready for the high seas, matey. Arrgh. What you see before you is what we'll need to make our hats. And as I think I mentioned in my intro, Halloween is fast approaching, and you might be thinking, ugh, I need a costume, what can I do? Well, we are going to be making our pirate hats. So, what I did is, I got together my ingredients. You'll need some hats. And I picked up some hats just from my local thrift store. I picked up a black straw hat, and I also have just your natural colored straw hat, so slight tan color. I have two of them, we'll be making them. I also have some spray paint. I have that because I have my tan colored hat and I want it to be black like a pirate. I also have some acrylic paint. I'm going to be using this to paint a skull and crossbones on my hats. And with that, I will also need some paint brushes to go along with it because I'm not doing finger paints today. Now, there are a couple ways of making these hats. I'm going to be showing you how to do it with hot glue because I think that is easier and slightly faster. But if you are someone who either doesn't have a hot glue gun or you feel very comfortable sewing or would just like to sew instead, by all means, use a needle and thread. The needle, it's going to be hard to see, but we have needle and thread is definitely an option for making our hats. With this, though, I would recommend probably using a color that you want your hat to look like, so probably black. That would just be my suggestion. And if you're going to do that, you will, of course, want some scissors handy so you can cut your thread. Now, you will also want to have some scissors on hand just in case you have a hat that's got any strings or stray straws so here you can see there is a string on my hat. I'm going to trim that just so I can have a slightly better look for that. And if you're curious what it might look like, I have a hat that is not a pirate hat, but you can see it is very hard to see, and I apologize, I know this might be a little awkward, but I did some stitching on here. I ended up sewing the ribbons on and just made little stitches. So if you would like to sew, by all means, go ahead for that. However, I'm going to be using hot glue because for me it's easier and faster. Let's get into this. I cleared out my space a little bit just so I can work a little better. So I'm going to start with our black hat. Now, you can see I already started bending this a little bit. Like I said, I picked these hats up from a thrift store, maybe $2, $3, so very inexpensive. And as I am holding these up, you can see we're already getting that shape of what we would think of for a captain's hat if you were making a costume. Now, I will not go to stand behind and say that this is 100% historically accurate. That's a whole different topic. But as far as for a costume that we would make especially quickly, this is great. So very much I am just shaping this to the best that I want. Now, taking my glue gun, I have preheated it and you can see the red lights on. That means it's ready. I'm putting a glob of glue right on the brim. And I realize it is a little hard to see because it's a black hat, but do the best you can. And I'm just going to stick that right onto the top portion. And I'm going to hold this in place for a moment because I want this to dry, or at least be secure enough that when I move my hand, it's not going to spring back and fall apart. Now I'm going to go and take one of my other corners, and this hat has some wire or something in the brim, so I am able to shape this a little bit more easily because I can hold it and it kind of holds its shape, which is sort of nice. Taking my hot glue gun, and a quick note, if you happen to live in a very warm climate, so you might live, for example, I live in Texas currently, and where I live, sometimes it is still very hot in October. So the hot glue might not be a great option if you're expecting it to be in the 90s or still reaching 100 degrees at Halloween time or whenever you need this costume. Sewing would be a better option, and what you would do is you would just do a couple of stitches right here where I'm putting the glue instead, if you wanted to do that. For me though, right now the weather has cooled down a little bit, thank goodness, and so I think hot glue will be okay. And I'm moving on to the last one, and I'm going to try and shape this up just a little bit so I can get this up going and try and match. There's lines, and I don't know, yeah, you can see how the lines are divided by the rows that they knitted or sewed or weaved the bits of this in. So I'm trying to line up, line with the lines, where I am putting my glue for my tricorner hat, my pirate hat. And smushing that up there, and I'm holding that in place. And once this dries, then we'll be set to look at this. And I just made myself the very simplest of pirate hats. It's very simple, very easy. After this is dried a little bit more, which will be a few minutes, I will then go and try to smooth out the ends. And I will paint a skull and crossbones on one of these as I go. So I'm going to set this one aside because that one went so fast, and take my other one. Now this is a much floppier hat. There is no wire in the brim, so we're just going to have to shape it piece by piece. And you can see mine has sort of a sash, if you will, a band around the hat portion. You could cut that off if you were concerned about it. I am not concerned. I'm going to be covering it up with folding up my hat. So we're gonna get started with that. Taking my glue gun again, and this time just putting it, same thing, right on my brim where I want it to stick. Yes. And I'm going to fold this up and attach it right here. Same thing, just smushing that down, holding it for a minute or two, just trying to hold it in place. Now, if you wanted a hat that wasn't going to be a tri-corner hat like the one I just made, the black one, you could, of course, just do this on two sides and have it that way, or just do the one side and add a big fluffy feather if you wanted it to be something like the Three Musketeers hat. There's lots of things you could do. I'm sticking with the pirate theme because pirates are fun. Why not? And I'm going to go, and that side has dried enough. Sticking on the other side, and I'm putting the glue actually right here on the hat portion, the skull portion of it, the part that will touch my head or whoever's head. I can't promise I'm dressing up as a pirate. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Haha. It's always so hard to choose a costume. And same thing, just holding this in place. I'm gonna do that then with the third side coming up so you're prepared for what's happening. And I turn it. I'm going to put some glue right on the brim, right in the middle section. And I put a big glob of it. You don't have to put as much as I did, but that's what I did just because I want to make sure that these hold secure. And here we have another three-corner hat, and this will be excellent for being the pirate shape, the pirate logo and all of that. Only thing is, this hat is a tan color. It is very light. And while you could definitely use this if you wanted something that would be from the era, like maybe you wanted to do a reverse pirate hat, you could do this and paint leave it plain and paint a black skull and crossbones instead of the standard white. I am going to take my spray paint and I will spray over this. Now, outside it's really gloomy and rainy today, so I'm not going to show you me spraying this. But a few tips before I go and do that. You're going to want to, of course, check if your bottle needs to be shaken. Most spray paints do need to be shaken. They have that little rattle in there, just like nail polish if you use that. So then it helps shake up the ingredients inside. Then you're going to want to do quick passes back and forth. You do not want to hold this and spray in one section. That will cause that section to be saturated with the paint and it's not going to be absorbed in well. It's going to start running and not look as nice. But you want to do quick strokes across the whole thing, let it dry, do the next section until you get the whole hat. I am going to go spray this and then I will show you after I have finished what it looks like. Over here, you can see this hat. This was originally the tan or brown hat. So I just spray painted it this morning, or just a few minutes ago, going in between wind gusts because it's very windy and gloomy, I think, as I had said. But I think the coverage looks great. I'm gonna let that finish drying before I paint my skull and crossbones, my Jolly Roger on there. So I'm gonna take my other hat, the one that was already black, which, like I said, I picked this up at the thrift store. It is great that this was already black, so that means I had to do very little with it. And now looking at the top, you can see my globs of glue. You could easily disguise that if you put any sort of decoration. So if you put any feather, or if you wanted to do something like put a little bit of ribbon there, or of course you could just put your glue a little bit lower, which would have probably been the best thing if I had pre-planned this out way in advance. I probably would have thought of that, but I did not. So I'm giving you that tip because if you want yours to be seamless on top, but I'm not too worried because I'm pretty tall. People are not going to be looking down at me all that often. But this is not a completed pirate hat. We have to make our skull and crossbones design. So I am picking a side of it. So here I am. And I am just going to freehand this. How will I freehand this? Well, I'm just going to jump to Google. And I just Googled skull and crossbones. This is one of the images that came up. I did an image search. I am just going to try and freehand this on. Now, you could, of course, outline it with a pencil. You could print out a picture and cut it out and use it as a stencil. That's also a great idea. In which case, if you did that, you could even spray paint the skull and crossbones, or you could just use acrylic paint. That's what I will do. So I'm going to show you taking my acrylic paint, which this is just paint I picked up from Walmart. And I'm taking my paintbrushes. Ta-da! And for me, this doesn't have to be a perfect design. I'm gonna try and get it close, but I'm okay if it's not perfect. So I'm taking some paint, you can see on my paintbrush, and I will start just giving the shape. And you can see here, yes, that is going to be the top of my skull. I'm going to go down, I'm going to outline it, and then work on filling it in. And I'm using pretty heavy amounts of glue on my paintbrush. If I was painting a picture, I wouldn't use quite so much on here. And you can make this any design you want. It does not have to be the traditional Jolly Roger. You could make it, you know, green and like an alien skull if you think that would be funny, or you can make a design, and there's lots of options. Mine looks a little bit more like a tooth, so, but that's okay. So I have our basic design for that. And now for my crossed bones, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to paint an X, and then I'll go back and fill in the details. I'm going to leave my camera running. I'm going to speed it up just so you can see me painting this, but I don't think I need to talk through my technique because I'm an amateur painter. I enjoy painting, but I don't have any serious strong techniques. So I'm going to let the camera run, but I won't be talking for the next bit. see the finished hat, or at least as close to as I'm going to go. And this is just the basic design I follow. It is, of course, not perfectly anatomically correct, but I wasn't going for that. I was going for something that worked, showing off my design. And I will be doing the same design, or at least close to it, on the other hat once that's finished drying, and I'll see you. Did you have fun? Did you go on an adventure? I know I had a good time. I had fun making these hats. And if you decide you want to make this hat, but you don't want it to look exactly like mine, that is A-okay. You have options. Make it pink, make it white, make it blue, make it multicolored, leave it more natural, and actually glue little plastic bones on there. Whatever your style, whatever your taste. You want to put ribbons and beads? Go for it. Big fluffy feathers for a nice big hat? Go for it. Or, you don't want to look like this? That's fine. This is just bonus. You don't have to do this whole getup. This could easily be turned into a hat of maybe a businessman in colonial times. Don't judge me if I got my eras a little mixed up on costuming. But there are so many options. Have fun with this, and I hope you come back for more adventures that we go on. Now, I can tell you, coming up, it is getting close to now November, which of course, if you are from America, I should say the United States of America, you know that Thanksgiving is coming up, which for many of us Americans, that means lots of delicious foods. So, we're going to be doing that. Make sure you stay tuned for that the whole month of November. All you can eat delightfulness. So, thank you for watching. Thank you for making your hats. Please be sure to snap a picture. If you did, tag me in it. I would love to see your creations. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever your preference. Be sure to also subscribe and ring that bell, ching, 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 so you can stay updated when I make new videos with crafting and recipes to come. Oh yes, there will be many more good things to come. Thank you so much for watching. Come again next week, same time, same place. I'll see you then. Bye!